So how do taxes affect our economy? Why do we have taxes and how does taxes change our behavior? We say that government finances its activities through taxes. In order for government to function, they need to raise some revenue, and that revenue comes to them in form of the taxes. Most of it comes in the form of taxes. So taxes create fiscal drags. I would say that all taxes will create cost for the economy, and that's what we call a fiscal drag. First of all, we don't like taxes. Probably the reason for it is that we don't really see where that part of our paycheck is going. It's really hard to imagine for us to think, well, this particular mile of a highway was financed because I paid my taxes, or this school was built because I paid my taxes. We really don't see exactly where our money is going towards, and thus we don't really like to pay taxes. Taxes also adjust behavior and create deadweight loss. So this abbreviation DWL stands for deadweight loss. How is it happening? Well, as we talked about marriage tax, when two people get married and as a result their combined income puts them in a higher income bracket, they have to pay more taxes combined than they did before. Well, as a result, we can see that that second earner in the family may pay almost half of their salary is going to go towards taxes. Well, that may discourage some people to go to work whatsoever. So as a result, what we created is a situation where that person is no longer wants to go to work. So instead of receiving a little bit of revenue from that person doesn't pay any taxes at all because they no longer work. Also, this person is no longer is contributing to our society or to our economy because they simply don't go to work, so they're not generating any kind of output. So since this output that that person was generating is no longer exist, we say that that person created that way loss. Well, actually, the taxes created that way loss. When we can compare this situation when it comes to burglars versus government, and we can say that in a certain way taxes are worse than burglars, because when it comes to burglars, at least that part of the income that they're stealing from people simply transfers from one person, whoever made that income, towards burglar. So we're not really losing any money in this transaction. We're simply transferring money from one person to another person. When it comes to taxes and government, in a case that we just described, in a case where a second earner decides to quit their job just because they're not simply making enough money anymore, it's a worse situation because now we eliminated that potential income from our economy overall. So that income is no longer being generated because of the taxes. It's also important to think about taxes' effect on the investment. We say that taxes may decrease investment. And when we talk about investment, we're talking about investment in physical capital, investment in human capital. Here we have to be careful about what we mean by the investment. Economists define investment slightly different from everybody else. When we talk about investment, we're not talking about purchase of stocks or bond. That is a financial investment. When we talk about investment, we're talking about purchase of physical or human capital that improves productivity in the future. So if you buy a computer to go to school, that's an investment. When you buy a bond, that's not an investment as economists view it. So why is it important for investment to exist? Investment is going to result in higher productivity in the future. You buying that computer makes you more productive. More productive means higher economic growth. And if taxes, now you have to pay higher taxes, so you're no longer able to afford that computer, we can see that you're not going to be more productive. As a result, economy may suffer. Taxes and revenue. Well, the government collecting taxes is nothing else that becomes government revenue. How do we measure revenue? Revenue is if we think about income taxes, is amount of tax that we collect multiplied by the wages that we receive. So if my wage is $5 an hour and I have to pay 10%, the revenue that government is going to collect is that $5 multiplied by 10%, right, which is 50 cents per hour of my work. Of course, the revenue is going to be calculated for all people and for all the hours that people work. So let's look at the example where we have a tax equivalent to 50%, or in decimal points it's 0.5, and we make in wages $100 million. So what our revenue is going to be is we take this 50% multiplied by $100 million, so we get that government revenue for this particular tax is $50 million. Let's say we reduce the tax to 40%. So now we reduce the tax to 40%. Some people now think, hey, I no longer have to pay that higher tax. So now that second earner is going to go back to work. As a result, we increase economic activity. We create new wages. So new wages increase to 110 million. That's just for example. Let's calculate the revenue. The revenue is now equivalent to $44 million. Does it mean that the economy lost $6 million? No, not at all. Government really lost $6 million, but workers gained $10 million more dollars. So here society overall benefited. Who got hurt? It's the government. It's those activities that government was planning to finance was collecting this revenue. Is it really bad? Well, that's a kind of a question that we can't really answer. It all depends. On one hand, yes, we saved some money, right? So maybe government would think about cutting some expenses. On the other hand, when it comes to actual cutting expenses, what are you going to cut? Are you not going to build a new school? Are you not going to improve the roads? Or are you simply going to do all of those activities, but instead of making this revenue in taxes, now you will have to borrow money to finance all of those activities? That's why we can't really say whether or not it's bad or good.